So here's a connection the headlines keep making one at a time, but rarely all at once. Everyone is watching the benchmark race. Who's on top? Who leapfrogged who? Whose model just posted the highest score? And in mid-2026, that race is genuinely incredible. The most capable AI models ever built all exist right now. Here's the part that's easy to miss. The models winning that race? You can't actually use most of them. One was switched off by the US government, worldwide, 3 days after it launched. One was promised next month on a keynote stage, and a month later, it still isn't here. One is locked behind a $200 a month paywall, and one has missed 3 release dates in a row, with a prediction market now giving it about a 1% chance of shipping on time. So let me say the quiet part plainly. The capability frontier and the availability frontier have split. For most of the AI era, those were the same thing. The best model that existed was the best model you could open in a browser. That stopped being true. In 2026, the most powerful model that exists and the most powerful model you can actually use are increasingly different models. And that's not a slowdown. That's the thing people keep getting wrong. The headlines read, AI is stalling, or the opposite, that it's all just hype to sell you a subscription. But the models aren't worse. They're better, and they're finished. What changed is that getting to them turned into its own separate fight, fought with export law, wait lists, government orders, and price. So let's walk the 4 locked doors, one at a time, because each one is locked differently. And the 4th lock is the one that should actually change how you think about all of this. Stay with me to the end for that. Door 1. Banned. This is the loud one, and it's the cleanest example you'll ever see. On Friday, June 12, 2026, at exactly 5:21 p.m. Eastern, Anthropic, the lab behind Claude, got a letter from the US government. The order, in Anthropic's own words, was to suspend all access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5 by any foreign national, whether inside or outside the United States, including foreign national Anthropic employees. Fable 5 was their newest top-tier model. It had been public for 3 days. Now, Anthropic couldn't selectively switch off every non-citizen on the planet in real time. So the net effect, in their words, was that they had to abruptly disable Fable 5 and Mythos 5 for all our customers. Everyone, globally. Their other models, like Claude Opus 4.8, stayed up, but the new flagship went dark by around 10 p.m. that same night. About 5 hours from letter to lights out. And here's the trigger. It wasn't some exotic cyber weapon. Reuters reported that the government, citing national security, acted through the 2018 Export Control Reform Act, reportedly the first time that authority has ever been used on a deployed AI model. The specific worry, as Reuters described it, was that the models could be diverted to military intelligence users in countries of concern, like China or Russia. And the thing that set it off? 3 words. Amazon, which is, and stay with me here, one of Anthropic's biggest backers, had researchers probing the model. They asked it to review some flawed code for security problems. It refused. So they rephrased it to fix this code, and it did, which means it first had to find the vulnerabilities. Amazon's CEO Andy Jassy raised it on a White House call. A day later, the letter arrived. Anthropic reviewed the demonstration and said it surfaced only a small number of previously known minor vulnerabilities. The kind, they noted, you can get from other public models too. And they pushed back, hard. Their line was, "We disagree that the finding of a narrow potential jailbreak should be cause for recalling a commercial model deployed to hundreds of millions of people. Apply that standard across the board," they argued, "and you'd essentially halt all new model deployments for all frontier model providers." Now sit with what just happened, because it's bigger than one company. For the first time, a shipped, commercial, working frontier model went from on to off for the entire world by government directive in a single afternoon. 76 cybersecurity experts signed an open letter calling it dangerous and counterproductive. And as of around June 21st, day 9, the models were still dark. So a government switching off a model, that's the loud version of the locked frontier. But the quiet version is almost more common. It's a model that never gets switched off because it never quite arrives. Door 2. Delayed. Picture Google's biggest stage of the year. I/O May 19th. The whole developer audience is waiting for one thing: Gemini 3.5 Pro, the new flagship. And Sundar Pichai gets up and says, and this is verbatim, "We are using it internally. It's showing great improvements, and it will be coming next month." You can hear the groan. Reporters said the room actually groaned. Because in the same breath, Google shipped the smaller model. Gemini 3.5 Flash is available for everyone today, and held the big one back. So, next month. That was a month ago. And here's the receipt. As of late June, Gemini 3.5 Pro is still a limited enterprise preview on Google's cloud. Not in the app, not in the public API. You don't even have to take a blogger's word for it. Google's own developer changelog has no entry for it, and the model's documentation page literally returns a not found error. It was announced with a 2 million token context window, double its own Flash model, and you still can't touch it. And Google isn't alone here. OpenAI's next general model, GPT 5.6, was finished enough by mid-June that a release candidate, codenamed Kindle Alpha, briefly leaked onto a testing platform and then got pulled. No announcement. It's nowhere you can use it. But people had wagered nearly $1 million on Polymarket guessing its release date. Think about that for a second. A model that's finished enough to bet on, but not finished enough to use. So a delay at least ends eventually. The next lock doesn't end. It just sends you a bill. Door 3. Paywalled. Here's where the frontier quietly retreats behind a price tag. Google's most powerful reasoning mode, called Deep Think, the one that grinds longer on hard math and code, isn't on the $20 plan. It starts on the Ultra tier. After Google reshuffled prices at I/O, that's $100 a month at the low end, $200 at the top. So the best reasoning Google sells starts at 5 times the entry plan. On the OpenAI side, the most capable Pro model and its million token context sit behind ChatGPT Pro, also $200 a month. But honestly, the price tiers are the gentle version. There's a deeper kind of gate, and it's worth seeing. Anthropic's most capable cybersecurity model, a lockdown sibling it calls Mythos Preview, was never given to the public at all. Instead, they put it behind a program called Project Glasswing. Access for just 12 launch partners, names like Microsoft, Google, NVIDIA, and JP Morgan, plus more than 40 critical infrastructure organizations, backed by up to $100 million in credits. Why so locked down? Their own words: it can surpass all but the most skilled humans at finding and exploiting software vulnerabilities. And it had already found thousands of high-severity bugs across major operating systems and browsers. And here's the tell that this is now an industry pattern, not one company's caution. OpenAI did the same thing. After publicly criticizing Anthropic for restricting Mythos, OpenAI shipped its own cyber model through a trusted access program. Identity-verified defenders only, not the public. And their stated reason, which I have to read out, was, "We don't think it's practical or appropriate to centrally decide who gets to defend themselves." And then they went ahead and centrally decided exactly that. So, banned, delayed, paywalled, 3 doors. And the fourth one is almost funny, because it's the most hyped model of them all. And the date just keeps running away. Door 4. Slipped. This is xAI's Grok 5. And the timeline tells the whole story. Elon Musk first said it'd be out before the end of 2025. Then, around mid-November, that became in Q1 sometime, the first quarter of this year. The first quarter came and went. Then, xAI pointed at the second quarter, May into June. And here we are at the end of June, with no Grok 5. The prediction markets have basically called it. On Polymarket, where people bet real money on whether an event happens, the market on Grok 5 shipping by June 30th sat around 33% back on June 10th. By June 21st, it had cratered to about 1%. Now, and this matters, that number measures timing, not quality. 1% doesn't mean Grok 5 is bad. It means the crowd is near certain it won't ship on schedule. And the strange part is, this isn't some underfunded project. The opposite. Grok 5 is reportedly a 6 trillion parameter model, Musk's own claim, training on Colossus 2, which is, by most counts, the largest AI supercluster on Earth, sitting in Memphis. And yet the one thing xAI has actually confirmed is just 4 words. Grok 5 is currently in training. So here's the irony in one sentence. All that compute and the release date is the one thing that keeps slipping out of reach. Turns out raw compute is an input, not a finished product. So step back, because the 4 doors aren't 4 accidents. They're one shift. Availability, just being able to use the thing, used to be automatic. You shipped a model, people used it. In 2026, availability became its own separate, contested axis, now governed by real machinery. There's now an export control category covering model weights, the downloadable guts of a model, for the most advanced systems. There's a new executive order, signed June 2nd, with a voluntary path for labs to hand the government up to a 30-day early look at a covered frontier model before anyone else gets it. There are trusted access programs, and there are price walls. A model, as one analysis put it, can be available on Monday and restricted by Friday. And here's the human edge of it, the part that's easy to skip past. When that ban hit, it didn't just affect foreign nationals as an abstraction. It meant a prominent AI researcher who happens not to be a US citizen got locked out of the best tools overnight. By nationality, not by anything they did. That's new. That's the kind of thing that used to be a hardware and borders problem. Now it's a who are you and where were you born problem, applied to software you open in a tab. So that's the heavy version of the story. The frontier didn't stall, it locked, and it can now be locked by decree. But, and this is the turn, so stick with me, there's a door that nobody can lock, and it kind of resolves the whole thing. Go back to the Fable ban for a second. Watch what actually happened in the days around it. Cohere shipped an open coding model on June 9th. On June 12th, the very day of the order, Moonshot released Kimi K2.7 code with downloadable weights. The next day, the Chinese lab Jipu launched its model GLM 5.2, a roughly 750 billion parameter system, and within the week put the weights up free to download under an open license that lets anyone use it commercially. The new stack put it bluntly, 4 open models responded before Anthropic could even restore access. Now, to be clear, none of those were built in response to the ban. You can't train a model that big in 3 days. They were already coming. But the timing wasn't a coincidence either, and it exposed something. When your provider gets switched off, you don't rebuild your whole system. The tooling around the model stays put. You just swap the engine underneath. The ban was the first real-world stress test of that idea, and the swap worked. And here's the kicker, the number that ties it together. On the Independent Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, the best open downloadable model scored a 51. The banned Fable 5 scored a 60. That's a gap of about 9 points. So the model the US government pulled offline was shadowed, within days, by a model nobody can pull offline, sitting roughly 15% behind it and free. We're not there yet on the very top end. Open weights still trail the absolute best closed models, and that gap is real. But watch the trend. The research group EP-OC tracks this exact thing, and their finding is striking. A model you can run at home, on a single $2,500 graphics card, now matches the absolute frontier from roughly 6 to 12 months earlier. In their words, anyone can locally run models matching the absolute frontier of LLM performance from just 6 to 12 months ago. So think about what that actually means for these 4 locked doors. The lock is real, but it's on the leading edge only, and it's on a timer of about a year. Ban a model, and an open one shadows it in days. Delay a model, and the frontier you can download keeps marching anyway. Paywall. The best reasoning, and last year's best reasoning is sitting on Hugging Face for free. So where does that leave us? Maybe it's a temporary scramble, and the doors reopen. Anthropic says Fable's coming back in the coming days. Maybe staged releases and gated tiers just become the new normal, where the best stuff always lands for partners and $200 subscribers first. Or maybe that export control precedent sticks, and switching a model off becomes a standing government power. Any of the three could win. But under all three, the same quiet fact holds. The frontier you can actually have is the one you can download. And it's only ever about a year behind. So here's the one idea to take away. The thing that reframes every one of those headlines. In 2026, the phrase best AI model stopped having one answer. There's the best model that exists, banned, delayed, gated, or still in training. And there's the best model you can actually use, which is increasingly the one you download and run yourself. For the first time, those are two different models, and the gap between them isn't about capability anymore. It's about permission. If you want the deeper version of that open weight story, how a Chinese lab's free model ended up shadowing a banned American one in a single afternoon, there's a full breakdown on screen right now. And I'm genuinely torn on this one, so I want your read. Is the locked frontier just a temporary growing pain, or the new permanent shape of AI? Drop where you land in the comments. If this one made you see the benchmark headlines a little differently, subscribe. Because the line between the model that exists and the model you can have is going to keep moving, and we'll keep reading the receipts on it.